Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on this beautiful planet. This is Rebecca Jernigan coming to you live from the heart of America to around the globe via the World Wide Web, journeying into the realms of the known and the unknown. You're listening and watching Journeys with Rebecca right here on Project Camelot TV Network. Hi, everyone, and a good day to you all. First, before I get Shellie Enteen on the show with this, I want to extend my warmest good wishes for a wonderful holiday time with friends and family. And of course, I wish each and every one of you and us a peaceful and prosperous new year. Shellie is going to be talking about the astrological influences for Christmas Day and beyond, and of course she'll probably start with today's information, and certainly what we can expect and how everything kind of lines up for the rest of the year into 2016. We do have Shellie scheduled to come back in January, mid-January, for another astrological update, so hopefully she can bring us the information of the very interesting energies that are lining up and that will carry us through until her next visit to the show right here on Journeys with Rebecca. Now, for today, if you do have any questions that would be general questions to ask of Shellie today, you can type those in the chat room, in the chat box there. Make sure you put them all in capital letters. We are going to request respectfully that you do not put in your birth date and specific information because that would require Shellie to pull up charts and do all of that, and that's not what this particular show is going to be about and the information that she'll be sharing with us. But if you do have questions about the energetics and how everything is lined up astrologically speaking, do put those questions in there. And then Brian, my wonderful producer, will be posting those here, and I can ask those questions, and Shellie can answer them on air for us. Now, again, I want to welcome each and every one of you, and I truly hope that you all have a wonderful holiday season. I will be sharing a little bit more information at the end of the show about the upcoming shows through the end of this year and the beginning of next year. So without further ado, let's get Shellie on. Hello, Shellie. Hi, my dear.
Hi there. How are you doing?
Well, you know, we, as in me and the frogs in my pocket, are doing okay today. It's been a very strange last few days, and I'm sure you're going to enlighten us as to why that might be, Shellie, and I'm glad you're here with us.
Well, thank you. We're coming to the end of the year. We're coming to a nice big full moon on Christmas Day. I think, you know, right now we're under very good aspects, by the way. You said I was going to speak about today. It was really bumpy yesterday evening and this morning. Moon in Gemini. The mutable signs now have difficult aspects right away. When the moon goes into a mutable sign, it has to meet up with Neptune and Saturn first. And that was probably making things a little difficult for us till about 3 o'clock in the Eastern time zone. I generally speak in Eastern time because that's where I live. So you'll have to convert to your own time if you want to figure out what I'm saying. Wait a minute, that's not, you know. So, and now we have the moon in this air sign, Gemini, so we can communicate well and travel well. I mean, that could have been a problem earlier today if you were one of the people who had to travel for the holiday. You could have had delays earlier in the morning, and last night it would have been probably water related, like rain or fog and stuff like that. But now you have a trine to the planet Uranus, and that is just, Gemini loves that. That is why we're talking about astrology today, because Uranus rules that. It's an energy field of study. That's really what it is. We're looking at the interactions of elements and what kind of energy they produce. All right, so right now the mind is active and open and totally ready to receive new impulses. As we go through the week, the most notable things to talk about, I think, are the approach to Christmas Day. Because of this, everybody gets very excited. If you're on Facebook now, everything is special. As I've mentioned before, it's special. There's a full moon on Christmas Day. It won't happen again for 19 years. Um, Full moons happen every 28 point something days. And if you have one on a holiday, it's going to do a full moon type of a holiday, which means that all the energies are going to get bigger. Emotional energies will be bigger because that's what happens with the full moon. It brings up things for us. And we can have fruitions. They can be wonderful things, or they can be the thing that was coming to a head that you've been trying not to face, or something like that. That also happens. The big light of the moon is shining down, so it can either be like the way the old movies about cops and robbers and stuff, and they used to sit them under this big spotlight, like that would make them tell the truth. Well, you notice the shows don't do that anymore, right? They forget it, forget that light thing. But that was a symbolic thing, and it happens for us when there's greater light shining. It's possible we might see something, or we might have to see something that was obscured, right? So if this is happening on the holiday, which it is, and there is a chart, there's always a chart drawn. And on my astrolessence.com website, on my Facebook page, and in the e-newsletters, I'm always giving you information about the full and the new moons, because these are the important monthly waxing and waning and the flow times for us. So in this full moon coming on Christmas Day, it actually happens. You're going to feel it more building up on Christmas Eve. If you're living in the UK, on the other side of the pond, you will have it on Christmas morning, because when this actually takes place is 6:11 a.m. in the Eastern time zone. So by the time some of us wake up in the United States, that full moon is over. So there's a buildup of energy now. And so in years where there's a new moon, which is the lowering of energy, maybe it doesn't feel quite as stressed, or maybe it doesn't seem as emotional, or whatever. But this year, there is a lot of action and a lot of emotion. And I mean, it's not, I was thinking about this earlier today. Things don't happen in a void all by themselves. We have a Christmas holiday, but we also have a lot of other things going on in this country. And the full moon is in the sign of Cancer, because the sun is in Capricorn. And Cancer is a sign that's very concerned with security, emotional security, and the home, and it is a sign also of countries. So if you look out there, you don't even have to be thinking about your own personal family or your own life. You can see that we've been having this enormous buildup of energy about security and what people are doing with it. This is the most important thing, because if we have no objective awareness, and under a full moon it's harder if it's in a sign like Cancer, because Cancer is a water sign that's about feeling. Cancer is feelings to the max. Cancer, I like to tell my students when I'm teaching, it's like, personalizing everything, including the weather. Like when in Funny Girl, there's a song about raining on my parade, and Barbara Streisand belts this song out. Cancers believe that it's raining on their parade. It's not like it's just raining. So Cancer full moon, this is the thing. This is big energy of, is it all about me? And am I secure? So it's probably a good thing that the peak is going to be over so early, because when people get together with their families, there's a lot of unfinished emotional business. You know, there are some families that seem very, very lucky. They seem to be able to feel very secure around each other, and other families that have exactly the opposite feeling when they get together. So the families that feel happy and loving and full of warmth for each other are going to feel that enormously with this full moon coming in, especially, again, on Christmas Eve. And then the families that have trouble, there's going to be, basically just look at it as fear. All right. So if you're the one who's listening to this, you're the one, you are now responsible for keeping the lid on. Or as I said in one of my forecasts that I posted on, I have an Astrolessence Facebook page that I post daily forecasts on. You'll be the one that, you know, if the pot looks like it's going to boil over, you're the one that has to pick it up and take it off the stove, you know, or turn down the heat, because that's literally what we're talking about now. And fear is a very active, heat boiling energy. And it really usually doesn't have a lot of basis in reality. What do they say? False evidence appearing real. You know, I'm sitting in a house now. My roof is keeping the rain away from me. I'm fine. You know, that's what people like Eckhart Tolle or The Power of Now, they're trying to get us to come back into the moment and listen to our heartbeat or feel our breathing, just so that we understand, you know, we're okay. I'm okay right now. So if you can focus on how everything's okay, then you'll have a better day. And one of the great things about this full moon, I think it's a really great full moon, if you're understanding that this is a polarity between the emotional need, which is the moon, shows us what the emotional need is, to feel secure in home and family, and the opposite sun drive in Capricorn, which is the individual's need to establish the self in public life and career. This is a bit at odds, you know, with our tradition. You know, you might, in a way, you could see this now. You know, there might be somebody at your gathering who can't get off their device because they have to keep checking something.
I think we all know somebody like that.
You know, I mean, it's life or death. You know, it's their public life, you know. People will be tweeting, you know. Okay, you know, but how about spending a little time with the family and being together and feeling the bonds? This is what the Cancer moon wants, you see. So this is where some of the discordant energies can come up on Christmas Day, because this is an emotional need. And when we're an emotional need, we're not very objective. And so we can have problems. But the good news is that there's a lot of earth energy. There was on the winter solstice chart too, and there was a forecast posted for the winter solstice that you can find that on the Facebook page and on the astrolessence.com forecast news page. Because we have Mercury, we have Pluto in Capricorn, that's earth. On the winter solstice, we had the moon in Taurus, which is as earthy as it can get. This is a guideline for the 3 months ahead. And then, of course, we have Jupiter in Virgo right now, and that's earth. So the earth energies are balancing us and keeping us more stable. Yeah. And as we move into the new year, also, we're going to have this emphasis on earth in the first month or so, which is going to help us come down to earth and deal with the things that have to be dealt with just in the mundane and practical aspects of life. So, I mean, I think that can be very helpful when you're going through this day of Christmas. And, you know, I've talked on the show, if you haven't, there's a show that we did where I talked a lot about the new evolutionary nodes that are in South Node Pisces and North Node in Virgo. So this Virgo energy is an earth sign, and it's asking us to be discerning and to look at our habits. And, you know, that's one of the things you can look at. during a Christmas day. Somebody posted on Facebook something about if you're not eating and drinking yourself to the point of diabetes, is it really Christmas? And it's a joke, it's a laugh, it's a ha ha ha. But our North Node is saying to us, how about looking at this? How about choosing wisely instead of just letting yourself get carried away and then be a victim of what you're feeling? So this is something that is in our realm now also. And this full moon is very close to the nodes. It's not in the degree, it's not in the sign that it should be in. It's not mutable. We're in cardinal signs for the full moon. But what this moon being so close to it is, it's telling us is that these are these attributes, Cancer and Capricorn, the need for security, the need really within the individual to develop emotional self-sufficiency. This is a big, big deal. Are you really buffeted about by the things that happen? Must we react with fear? Or if we do react with fear, because that's kind of natural, must we stay with it? Should we, it's either like, do we let it come and go, or do we make that our home? We just live in that fear. So this is a very important thing for us to look at, as well as the Capricorn needs to be respected and have status at the expense of, the feeling nature. The Capricorn energy has been known to the end, they say this about it, the end justifies the means, and so is that really true though? Do we really feel that way when we do something we really shouldn't do in order to get something that we think we wanted? Do we feel good? Does it not matter? The collateral damage, does that not matter really? So these are things, because this full moon is so close to the evolutionary node, which is asking us for discernment. These are the things that we have to review during this full moon, and not play victim or perpetrator in holiday disagreement. Not having illusions and being deceptive or using escapist behavior. Like, think about a few that you could use, and even just being on a device is escapist behavior, right? So instead, paying attention to the habits and methods that are best for your own health, other people's health and well-being, and just simply smooth functioning, appropriate functioning, how things will work. And we have a wonderful trine, really, from Neptune to the moon, and it sextiles the sun in Capricorn. And Neptune, when it's positive, can bring in all the intuitive guidance and spiritual realization and inspiration that we need. It can bring in compassion. Yeah. So it can lift us up. And one of the things that helps us do that is music. And so listen to what you're listening to and see if that's something that's helping your environment. Uranus in Aries right now is at a station, because this is the other big thing about Christmas Day. Uranus in Aries stations direct. So it will be going direct later in the evening. And so what this does now is the retrograde planets are all about going within. So when they move forward, it comes out into the world. So this is the time when any of the changes or the revolutionary ideas, or, the volatility that might be inherent in a situation can start to manifest. It can be good change, or it can be difficult, depending on what you find yourself in and what you find yourself with. And it's still somewhat squaring Pluto. These things are going to be moving away. We're going to get further and further away from those 7 exact Pluto-Uranus squares that we've gone through. This is going to make our changes possibly come easier for us. And we do still have, with Mars in Libra, Uranus is going to do the opposition to Mars at some point soon. That is also super volatile, also for relationships. So one of the things we have to look at, and we had the big moon that dealt with relationships, the Aries full moon. That was the big supermoon that everybody was all excited about. We're still in that influence. Are there cracks in the relationship energy? Are there really significant disagreements or differing viewpoints? Are they things that can be bridged? Are they things that can be patched or not? You know, this is a time when we may need to see that. It's the end of a year. We're starting to set our intentions for a new year. Our intentions can be also to start seeing more of what really needs to be, what really needs to be done. You know, not feeling victimized by it necessarily, but feeling like, okay, these are the steps. You know, tuning in to get that information and taking your healthy steps and letting others take theirs. You know, we might be the ones that are holding other people back from taking steps that they need to take. So this can happen too. So this is a time, this is a moment, and even though this is the holiday, this full moon is there to bring this up, to put that light on it so that you can see. All right, now in the background, Venus is in Scorpio, and it's making a sextile to Jupiter in Virgo, which should help some of the energies be upbeat, and even some of the ability to be a little bit more aware of other people's needs and not just our own. It could provoke some overdoing, and it could provoke some overspending. But there is that practical side of Virgo that Jupiter is bringing in, and Mercury is still in Capricorn. So you might be being wiser than you thought you may be at this particular time. I don't know. I haven't been watching the news to see how the shops are reporting their sales. And, you know, with all the Capricorn energy around, though, people could have been more inclined to get the big ticket, you know, the status items right now. They would be more inclined to that too. So I'm not sure, but, you know, it could be that that happened for you. So if it did, you'll be dealing with the bills as they come in. Right? And then you'll go, wait a minute, you know, maybe I should be more discerning about gifts for others. So did you want to say anything at this point?
You know, I do. There's a couple of things. You really spoke a lot about the Christmas Eve energy coming forward and then bringing in the Christmas Day energy. And then obviously I got an amusement out of the Facebook post, but with what you was talking about is about eating yourself sick and drinking yourself sick, kind of a thing. And, you know, I have to tell you, is through the years, Shellie, I grew up with traditions. We all did in some manner, whether it be Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever. Mm-hmm. And through the years, I have certainly changed those traditions. And it really was my children, when they were young, that turned me on to looking at the holidays through different eyes. It was quite an amazing thing. They were just little guys, and I got looking at that. I was like, well, you know what? Just because we've always done it that way, and my mother did it that way, maybe her mother did it that way, doesn't mean that I need to do it that way. This is my family, and this is what they want, so we're going to do it this way. And so every year I would change it up. Always change it up. So it wasn't like for every Thanksgiving we necessarily had turkey, or for every Christmas we had ham, and then, you know, all of that. I mean, it was whatever we decided on as a group in those years. Well, what do you want this year? Well, how are we going to do this? And it was actually quite lovely. And I can tell you, through the years, we don't sit and we never just sat and gorged and gorged and gorged and really literally made ourselves sick. We would munch all day long, but we didn't, you know what I mean? It was just kind of festive. but it really, I do ask for people to do the same thing. I mean, this is what you're saying, in that it's just, use some discernment. Just because it's there doesn't mean you have to eat it, nor should you push it on somebody else. And I think that would help people a lot. There's a lot of expectations about what needs to be served, how it needs to be served. We become slaves to tradition, and we really need to look at those traditions to see if they really work for us anymore. Because
Right.
we all change. Whether you're a young parent, an older parent, whether you're not a parent at all, whether you have groups of friends or family that you hang out with, we've all changed. And so with that comes new ideas. How do we bring forth a healthier idea? And I don't necessarily mean that you have to watch every little thing, but it's using that common sense as well, and bringing in a balance. There seems to be a lot of balancing energies if people can grab a hold of them during those few days, and I'm hoping that everybody is listening and really try to grab a hold of that. And you're absolutely right about the light shining down, and if the family unit has its issues, those issues can raise their ugly head in a negative way, or you can be the one that reroutes it and puts it in a different light or a different context, or wait to even approach it from a different time frame if it's even needed.
Right.
So there's a lot of real positive things about this extremely interesting uh, full moon coming up here. And my understanding is that we haven't had a full moon on Christmas for, what, 30 years or 40 years or something? It's been a very, very long time.
It's the cycle of the lunar cycle, and when it's going to be exactly. I mean, it almost isn't on Christmas Day in the
Right.
Eastern time. So, it's just 6 hours into Christmas Day. So that means that it could have been in the weeks coming in to Christmas, or it could have been in the days after Christmas. It isn't like there wasn't one anywhere near it. And people's energies were going to, if it was a total new moon cycle, if you were in the dark moon, that's also just a cycle. See, I want to tell you that when I'm looking into January and moving into the next year, there are going to be 2 solar eclipses and 2 full moon lunar eclipses, and the first one is going to be the first of 6 supermoons. So people hear the supermoon and they say, "Well, wow," you know, and yeah, I mean, wow is because we have a natural process of the moon in its orbit with the sun getting closer to the Earth. The orbits are sort of more elliptical than they are circular. So at certain times, the planet is closer to us, or the moon is closer to us. So for 6 moon cycles, the moon is going to be closer to Earth. So it's a little bit bigger when we look at it. And the energy, the pull, is stronger. So yes, they are supermoons, but they happen every year. I mean, I wish people would just understand that. I have the desire, can you tell, for people to understand this, because this is our natural experience of life. This is, if we know how the cycles are going, then we can follow and we can be in harmony with it. Don't put yourself away from it by making it something that's like, you know, it isn't like, it's not like that. Do you remember when it started on email, but every year they kept sending around this thing that Mars was going to be as close as the moon to us, and that wasn't going to happen and if Mars had ever gotten that close to the Earth, we wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
Okay. So that was just somebody playing on us and our lack of connection to what's real. So I'm kind of like to bring things down into what's real.
Right.
And, there will be full moons, if not on the exact day of Christmas, there will be full moons near it.
Right.
You will have your full moon every 28 point something days. So it's not, let's just look at what it's telling us now. You know,
You know, we had a conversation before the show started, and I just feel
mm-hmm.
the need that I wanted to share this with you that I didn't share with you when we were talking off the air.
Mm-hmm.
But talking about keeping it real, and one of the things to keep it real is to, and I've talked about this for years, is about the natural rhythms
Mm-hmm.
that occur on this planet. And that's why, for me, listening to an astrologer takes that conceptual and sensory thing that I have going on and putting it into a formula, so to speak, or a format as to what these natural occurrences are and why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling about something or experiencing something, is because of this natural flow that we go through every cycle, the 28 point whatever days, from one full moon to the next, or one new moon to the next, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And that's why I think equinoxes and solstices are extremely important, because the representation of what they actually stand for has been lost on modern time, shall we say, through a lot of the societies, not necessarily all of them, but a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if people would study the natural phenomenon of these things, what they really stand for, I think people would be able to get that sensory perception going,
Mm-hmm.
that would help them to put into context the information that you're sharing and that astrologers share.
Well, I would have to agree with you. I don't know if I think I just came back on, and I'm saying that I definitely agree with you. And I was thinking today also about Saturn being in Sagittarius, and that Saturn is a teacher, a karmic teacher, and it's making us look at some of our beliefs, all of our beliefs. I mean, all we do, we are like belief machines. That's how we function here. They tell us what's right and what's so, and we experience. Like if I do something, I fall down. Or we experience things, and then we believe. We believe it. So um, another thing, other than just looking at rigid beliefs that are holding us back, which is a big thing with Saturn in Sagittarius, is I was thinking about how it is also wisdom in the indigenous cultures, because Saturn is the teacher. It is wisdom. And the indigenous cultures were all operating on the plotting and the observing and the understanding of these cycles. That's what they were doing. So it is time for that to come back in, especially as we're, in this evolutionary brink point here, where in a very short time on the planet, we've managed, after the Industrial Revolution, to, be kind of putting our own existence in jeopardy. Because we haven't been honoring, the reality of these cycles and what they mean. So,
I agree with that. I want everyone to kind of sit with that. I hope people sit back and listen to this portion of it again, and see how that resonates with them. So as we're looking past the Christmas time frame and we're getting into the new year, let's take a look, if you don't mind, literally at the last day of this year, moving into
yes.
January 1, the calendar year.
Right.
And because a lot will transpire between Christmas and New Year's Eve, for many people. And so if you could share with us what people can look kind of towards in that time space.
Yes, indeed. I'd be happy to do that. One of the things that's happening is that Venus is going to leave Scorpio, where she can be mm, a little bit manipulative, a little obsessed, perhaps jealous. Again, yeah, definitely, you but she's also a good healer. If she's elevating and she's looking at her heart energy, this is where we can learn to heal with love. So we're coming to the end of that transit, and on the 30th of December at 2:16 in the morning Eastern, she goes into that happy-go-lucky Sag sign. So we kind of come up a bit from some of the intensity, and we want to play. That's what we want to do. When Venus is in Sag, she wants to play. So when we get to the day of New Year's Eve, now we have the moon is in Virgo. So we're in the earth sign that we were just talking so much about for the end of the year. Is this a coincidence? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But when the moon is going through a sign, by the way, we're all experiencing it, even if it's not our natal moon. We're all experiencing the quality of having an emotional need that is in that sign. So we have the emotional need in Virgo to be taking care of things, and we want perfection, and that's where we can get a little off the beam. But we find that as we go into New Year's Eve day, it's a fabulous day. It's one of the most unusually good New Year's Eve days that I've seen in a while. But it is earthy. It's first we get the conjunction to Jupiter earlier in the day, 11:50 a.m. That's a great time to sit down if you can, if you're not working. Most people, well, no, people work on New Year's Eve. You can sit down and start looking at your planning, your practical planning for the next year. What is it that you want to see manifesting in the very real practical way? Not in your emotional life so much, but in terms of your health, in terms of your work situation, the things that you need to do around your house to make things run smoothly, organize. Oh, this is my word. Or so can I just hire somebody?
Why not?
I wish I could. I wish I knew somebody. I need somebody. The moon then goes into a trine to Mercury in Capricorn for the rest of the day and the rest of the evening. And again, this is not frivolous. It's not like having a Leo, yay, or an Aquarian, whoopee. It's not that energy for that night, but it is a very stabilizing and helpful energy. Um, Again, to be thinking about what you want to see, and even in the outer world, not in our own personal world, because Capricorn is that public, like you were talking about traditions and consensus and how we always do. That's Capricorn. And government, and the way things are being run in the outer world. This is Mercury in Capricorn. So in the morning, we can be looking more at our own world. And in the evening, we can be looking, if you're not going out and partying, if you do the burning bowls that some people do on a New Year's Eve, that you write down all the things you want to get rid of and you burn that, and you've got your list of all the things you want to bring in. As we're in this evening cycle, now we can be looking at the things we want to see in the world, how we might readjust, like you did with your holidays, how we might readjust for a better result. Now, Mercury is he's slowing down a little, because guess what? Mercury is going to do it right away in January. Mercury is going to retrograde. Everybody loves that so much. And it always seems like Mercury is retrograde anyway, doesn't it?
It
But
does.
it's crazy. But on New Year's Day, Mercury is entering Aquarius. That's where it's going to retrograde. So these last moments of this practical energy going direct are good to use on the New Year's Eve day. The moon will be in Libra for New Year's Day, and that's actually as we're coming into the lowering of light phase. So during that day, we'll get the moon square sun, which brings us to the point where we are naturally every month looking at what I need to let go of and give up and how I need to rearrange, or what bills have I not paid, what do I have to complete. So this is what could be on your mind as we go into the first couple of days of the new year, of January. New Year's Day, it begins if you happen to get up early enough, or you're in the UK. It's a moon in Libra that comes in at 1:41 a.m. Eastern, and sextiles Venus in Sag. So it's a beautiful energy for a breakfast if you're up early enough on the Eastern time. But over across the ocean, definitely a great morning to have friends in for a hangover breakfast or something. But as the day goes on, you've got the moon square sun, and that's what makes the fourth quarter. So it isn't as amenable. And Mercury entering Aquarius is at 9:20. Now, one of the things I want to say also about the early days of our new year is that Mars will enter Scorpio. And this is going to be Mars is going to spend the year in Scorpio, Sag, Scorpio, on a retrograde, Sag. So we're going to have a lot of time of looking at Mars in Scorpio. It comes in 9:32 a.m. Sunday the 3rd, and the moon is in Scorpio that afternoon and does the conjunction to Mars in Scorpio 2:51 p.m. and then the moon squares Mercury. Watch Sunday the 3rd. Be very aware of all the deep currents and don't get caught in the undertow. Because Mars in Scorpio, again, Scorpio is a sign that has such high potential that it gets 3 symbols. The highest one is the dove, which is the greatest peace and the greatest healing. But there's also the Scorpion level, and then that's what you want to be aware of with Mars, because the Mars and Scorpio energy isn't as easily seen. Anger in Scorpio is going to be held close, and the actions are going to be covert and secretive. But one thing we know is that if we get angry in Scorpio energy, we don't forget it easily. We don't forgive easily. So we're going to be looking at that a lot in this coming year. How capable are we? And we get off right at the beginning, with this Sunday particularly, giving us the taste. You want to see, what does this feel like? This is the great day to start seeing what that's going to be looking like. And because Mercury is going to retrograde, and when I get on the next show, I'm going to go into the first few months but I'm just going to go into a short period now. It's going to retrograde on Tuesday the 5th at 8:06 a.m. Eastern. It's really, not the time, even though we've set our goals, and there are a couple of things happening. Jupiter is going to retrograde this week also. Jupiter retrogrades on it's the 7th. It's the 7th? Well, it's not giving me the time. 11:40 p.m. That's why it's almost midnight. On the 7th of, so 2 retrograde planets, starting the first, and one of them being Mercury. January isn't the month to go forward. It's the time to review everything. We're going to be reviewing so many things. And it seems a little crazy. Well, we set all our goals, and, now we want to do it. Well, you will do it. But don't push yourself into fighting a cycle, because then you'll probably feel like you failed. And you haven't failed, you just haven't been observing your cycle. So you haven't used the time well, that's all. And you can get back on and say, okay, wait, I understand I have to wait for this to complete. And I'll give you the time when the um, the direct motion of Mercury and Jupiter will take place. So Jupiter is how we expand. So it's very important for us to know when we want to have projects like to get underway with new things. We don't want to launch things with a retrograde Jupiter if we want them to expand. All right, so this is the thing. Now Mercury will be retrograde till the 25th of January. So that's most of the month. All right, so just think about waiting and reviewing and just let yourself do that. And it will go back into Capricorn, so you'll be looking at those plans and thoughts you made again, and then it will come back out from Capricorn and into Aquarius again after it begins going direct. Jupiter, however, won't go direct until the 9th of May. So
Ooh,
you can, yeah. So it's a slower moving outer planet. So you can start some of the motions. I mean, it's not like you can't do anything. It's that, like, let's say you wanted to launch a business. You wanted something that's going to start moving outward in a big way. That's when you want Jupiter direct for that. So it's been direct. So it's been direct for a while. So things that you've already put in motion, you might also be reviewing and coming back out in May with something a little redesigned, redeveloped, because it's still in Virgo. It is retrograding and going direct in Virgo.
okay.
Okay, but that's what I wanted you to know, that about this beginning part of the year, because it is so important for us to understand when we think we're supposed to, put all of our new ideas about our health and we're going to start that new fitness program, we're going to do whatever it is, and then we find obstacles or just things aren't working. Don't worry about it. It's just the timing. It's just the timing. It will go forward, just like we're going to have a new full moon again. you know,
Thankfully,
uh,
right?
and in March we get our eclipses, our eclipse cycle start. So we're coming into the end of that eclipse cycle that we just had. So some of this stuff is wrapping itself up if you haven't already gone through the major issues about the changes in the different places that Aries and Libra were bringing for you. Then you may be the person who's doing it right at the end of the cycle. And then we're coming in, when we look at February, we're like just 4 weeks out of the first eclipse, the solar eclipse. So we are again having to sort of tone down just in that month. So, it may not be what, you want to hear, but it is what is.
Well, the energies are the energies. They speak for themselves, right?
Right.
So, wow, that was a ton of information, Shelley. It's got
Yeah.
my little brain on fire, I can tell you. And I think for the listeners and viewers out there, they're going to get a lot out of this. And I will go back and listen to this again, just myself, just because there was just enough information in there that I want to make sure whatever I'm doing in an appropriate time space and understand more of what's really the deal is. And so I thank you for that. Now we've got you scheduled to come back on, I think, the 19th of next month. Is that correct? I
Yeah.
think that date's correct.
Hmm.
I'll be updating. I won't be updating my website or anything until after the first of the year. But I want to let people know is to definitely go to astralessence.com. And there's also some additional information, plus some of the information that Shelley shared with us tonight or today, and also her Facebook page. And there's a place there where you can go and sign up for your newsletter on your website, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so definitely do that so that you can get the full and new moon kind of forecasts. It will help you if you know, especially if you know your own chart, um, or at least know some of your own chart to be able to assist you in this. And it's really important that we heard this information just a few days before the day of Christmas, so that people can really get an idea of what they may expect happening if they're in a family dynamic. And also, I think it was really good for the New Year's Eve and New Year's, the day before New Year's Eve and New Year's Eve, as well as the first day of the year, the calendar year. I think it's really great information. It will help. I think this will help people tremendously. It does not look like that we had any questions here today, Shellie. So what I'd like for you to do is, if you have any final words, and before we go, for anyone for the rest of 2015.
Oh, final words for the rest of 2015. Just open your heart and enjoy yourself.
Perfect.
Just love is it. That's it. Love yourself and love others, and just understand things in that light.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's beautiful words. I want to remind everyone that I have one more show scheduled for the end of this year. Hopefully this one goes off. We have had to reschedule her several times, and that's Marie D. Jones, and she will be on next Wednesday, the 30th, in my regular time slot, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time. If all goes well on her end, we will have her there. And then I do have listings that I will be placing within this week, coming up, well, next week, in between the Christmas and New Year's, where I'll be updating the website with the January guests. I do have 4 shows already lined up for the beginning of the year. I just wanted people to be able to get over and through the holidays before I muddied up everything with some more newsletters. So I will not be sending out another newsletter until after the first of the year. And I do wish for each and every one of you, thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you, Shellie, for your fantastic information. I'm hoping I will talk to you before the end of the year, but if I do not, you have yourself a great holiday season. And I want to thank my producer, Brian, for all of his assistance in making these shows come together, and of course to each and every one of you out there listening and watching. Thank you so much for being with us, and until we meet again, where will your life's journey lead you? Many blessings, everyone, and goodbye.